Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. It's AG and today I'm going to be talking about my top Procreate tips and tricks. I've been using Procreate for a few years now and I just wanted to share some of my go-to tips and tricks for the program because honestly the program can be kind of daunting at times, but it's one of my favorite drawing programs, probably my favorite actually. So without further ado, I'm just going to jump right into the tips and tricks. Before I start, I am using the iPad 6th generation and I'm using the most updated version of Procreate. Okay, so we're just going to draw something real quick here. Okay, so let's say we have this blob here. I'm going to show you two ways to do masking tools. The first one being a clipping mask, and the way that clipping mask works is you have a new layer and you tap it and you go to clipping mask, and basically what this enables you to do is pick a new color, and whatever you put on the screen will only go on the layer directly below it, like so. But if you turn off clipping mask, then it stops that. It stops being confined to just the layer below it. It just goes crazy on the page. But when you hit clipping mask, it goes back to just being in this blob. And yeah, it's consisted of two layers to use this method, but the method that I tend to use is alpha lock. So we delete this layer. If we tap the main layer and hit alpha lock, that enables you to color directly onto this layer without going outside the confines of the shape. So I tend to use this because I use a lot of layers, and so it enables me to change the color of like line art or fill in different shapes a lot easier and make sure that I have enough layers to do what I need to do. So yeah, those are my two masking tool tips that I have. And moving on, I'm going to show you how to group and merge layers. So if we had a new layer and let's say we wanted to draw a little smiley face, and then we wanted these layers to be together. So I'm going to show you first how you can merge the layers, and you can do that by just pinching, oops, that was wrong, pinching these two layers and they will go onto one layer. You can also put them in a group, and the way you can do that is just to swipe both of these and make sure both of them are highlighted in blue and just hit group, and that's really helpful. And if you wanted this group to be condensed down into one layer, just tap the group and hit flatten, and now it's all in one layer. And with this grouping, you can also just move it to a different canvas. So let's say I wanted to take it to a different canvas, just hold down and then go to gallery, add a canvas, let's do screen size, and then when it takes you to that new canvas, it will show you the option to add it, and it will import those layers onto a new canvas, and sometimes it takes a minute. Okay, now I'm going to show you how to make straight lines and perfect shapes. So there are two ways also of doing this, the first being assisted drawing. So the way you can do this is go to settings, canvas, and hit drawing guide. You can see there is now a grid here. You can also adjust this drawing guide. So if you hit edit drawing guide, you can firstly adjust the grid and grid size. You can also change the type of grid it is. So isometric, I like using the perspective one. It's just really helpful. So you just tap a vanishing point. There's also symmetry, which is fairly self-explanatory. It just enables whatever is drawn on here to be mirrored on the other side. But let's go to the 2D grid for now. And basically the way that you can do straight lines and stuff with this grid is by tapping the layer and hitting drawing assist, and now when you draw it goes along the grid. Like you can see, I'm not really drawing a straight line, but it comes out as a straight line, so that's very, very, very helpful. Another way of doing straight lines and straight shapes is turning off the drawing assist And then if you draw a shape and then just hold it, it will create a line, and you can edit shape, you can edit or adjust the length of it and the direction of it. And for making shapes out of this, you can do the same thing. So let's say I wanted to make a circle. I would make a general shape. And then it says ellipse is being created. If I wanted it to be a circle, just touch with another finger and it turns into a perfect circle. So that's a really, really useful tool that I like to use. And you can also edit that shape if you want to. Okay, next up, let's do transform tools. So transform tools really are useful in the drawing process if you need to adjust things. So Procreate has the tools to move things and adjust them right here on the little mouse, and you can just move it around the screen. If you wanted something to be like in the center of the screen, you can just hit snapping, and I usually turn both magnets and snapping on, and then when you move it, it will go along certain axes. And let me just line this up in the middle here. Sometimes it takes a little bit of work. But now it's in the middle of the canvas. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about using colors in Procreate. So Procreate has some really awesome tools with the color palettes. For one, you can import photos as color palettes. So if I hit add palette and say new from photos, and then I selected this photo, it creates a color palette derived from that photo, and that's just really helpful. So if you see like a photo on Pinterest or something that you really like the color palette of, you can just put it on Procreate and it will convert that photo into a color palette. Another really useful tip that Procreate has is harmony. So if you hit this, you're brought to this page that shows you what the complementary color would be to the color you have selected. So you can see here that the complementary is like this like bronzy color, and you can also change what kind of relation the colors have. So complementary, split complementary, analogous, triadic, and tetradic, and that's just really helpful for creating color palettes. And I usually use it for shading and lighting. So if I shaded in one color, I would highlight in the complementary color and vice versa. So now that I've talked about choosing colors, now I'm going to talk about actually going about coloring. So the first way that I'm going to show you is reference. So let's create a new layer. Tap the layer that's like your line art and just tap it and hit reference. So now on your new layer, you can drag a color and it will fill what's in the reference layer. So let's say it wasn't reference. If it wasn't reference and we dragged the color, it would just go all over the page. But because we have it set as reference, it fills just what is being here. And if you hold and slide, you can also adjust the threshold. So sometimes it'll just go all the way through the page anyway, but that's why you can adjust the threshold. So another way that I like to color, which I've been trying it out recently and I like it a lot, so it is through doing Recolor. So if you drag a color onto the image, there's this option to continue filling with Recolor, and that basically just allows you to tap certain places and it'll fill it in. So that's a super useful tool, and you can also adjust like, I guess it's called flood, but I think it's more like the threshold of what you're filling in. And the last tip that I'm going to show you is how to add a private photo. So I tend to do this for references, and so you can just go to the screen, the settings screen, go to add, and you see there's all these options to insert things. You can also swipe this way and it says insert a private photo. And so if you tap that, you can insert a photo here, and this is just a drawing that I did recently. And so let's say that I was using that as a reference for myself. I can just put that here. And so I can just do my thing, like drawing and doing all kinds of fun stuff. I can take the colors here, just have fun with it. And then when I go to the video and go to time-lapse replay, which Procreate is awesome because it automatically does a time-lapse of your drawing, which is one of my favorite features of Procreate. If you tap that, it'll show your replay and it won't show the photo that is on your screen, but it's here. So that's a really cool tip that I like to use when I use references. I know a lot of people have talked about like potentially people will trace and like it won't look like they traced, but I still think that it's a really cool tool for artists to use for reference photos so that they're not just like everywhere on the canvas. And yeah, that's basically all I have to say. So those were my top Procreate tips and tricks. I really love using this app, and yeah, just don't be afraid to like jump in. A lot of the things that I learned by just trial and error, but hopefully this video was helpful, and if it was, please like it, and if you found anything helpful, just leave a comment and subscribe. And yeah, that's basically all I have to say. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one.